Traditionally, bagels are boiled. It gives them the chewy crust. Today, it's pretty hard to find a traditionally boiled bagel because it's harder work and it's less efficient. So actually, you might be making more authentic bagels at home than at the bakery. So today I'm going to show you how to make authentic boiled bagels. The bagels today are sourdough, but of course you can use yeast, whatever you need, and you can use any sourdough starter that you want. So I got a really big bowl because I think that when you're making something at home, you might as well make like 20 instead of 10 or 30. I've got my bread flour. You can use plain flour if you can't get your hand on bread flour. I have my water. This is my salt mixed with some milled malt. Classic bagels are kind of malty. We have some oil. This is a neutral oil. I'm using rice bran oil, but you can use any neutral oil. I'm going to show you guys also how to make an everything bagel mix because I think they're the best. Black and white sesame, sea salt, garlic granules, onion granules. I put a little caraway seeds because I like them, but a lot of people don't, and some poppy seeds. I've already pre-weighed everything, so let's mix. So first I'm going to pour the water and the starter. And actually the first thing I'm going to do is just dissolve the starter into the water. Now I'm going to add in the flour. If you have a mixer at home that has a little dough hook, that's also good, but you can do it with your hands. A bagel dough is a pretty stiff dough, so it actually is going to take a little bit of work to mix, but that's all right. You let out all your frustrations. I'm chucking in the salt and the malt and the oil. So I'm going to mix it until it all comes together, and then we'll knead it on the bench top. So I'm still trying to get the dough to come together. It's a pretty stiff dough. You can bring it towards you and push away after you've mixed the dough. Give it a couple minutes to rest and then have another go at mixing it. And you'll see straight after the rest, the dough has already come together better without you doing anything. I'm now going to put the dough away in a container with the lid on so it doesn't dry out on the top. If it dries out on the top, the skin can prevent it from expanding. So you want to cover it as much as possible. It's been 6 hours, so here's our dough now. Much more airy and big and soft. We weigh our bagels to 135 grams. At home, you do not need to do that. You just can cut them however you like. You can also use any knife that's sharp. Ideally, don't tear the dough. It's not the end of the world, but if you can use a knife or something to just cut the dough without causing too much damage to it, that's ideal. I'm going to show you how I shape a bagel. Roll over and kind of push, roll over, give it a final roll. And then I'm going to let this sit for 5 minutes and again, rest so that I can have a bit more stretch. If you can't get it, it doesn't matter. These are your bagels for you to enjoy, and freshly made food at home is amazing. No matter what, it's amazing. So don't stress too much. We're gonna get the tray ready so that we can put our shaped bagels on the tray. I use baking paper on a tray and I use some spray oil so it doesn't stick. After the bagel rises, remember we're gonna boil it because real bagels are boiled. So you don't want it to stick to the tray. I've got my strands, I've got my space to shape it, and I've got my tray. Here's how I shape them. I put them in my hand, and one end is at one end of my palm and the other end is at the other end of my palm. And I'm gonna use the bench top to stick them together. So I'm just gonna go from left to right until they're stuck together so that it can fit around my palm. That's kind of the hole size that I like. Remember, as it rises and then as it bakes again, the hole is going to become smaller. These are done and ready to go to bed. While the dough is rising for a second time in shape, it should be covered. Now our bagels are ready. Until now, you've been very patient, you're waiting for it to rise, and you needed it so much and all those things. Now this is the fun part and we're nearly going to eat them. So here's an example of when it's risen. If you press, it's going to bounce back slowly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the traditional act of boiling bagels. I just want to tell you a little secret. So traditionally bagels were boiled because you get that good crust from boiling it. Nowadays, most places don't really boil them. They just steam them a lot. So actually you might be making more authentic bagels at home than at the bakery. Now I put a little bit of honey in my water. Some people use baking soda, some people use nothing. The honey gives it a nice caramel color. I like polenta to go at the bottom of the bagel because I like the sweetness and the crunch that you get from it, but that's totally optional. So the water's boiling. I'm gonna take the bagel gently and drop it in, bottom up. And we're gonna do each side 1 minute. 1 minute with the lid on, flip them, 1 minute with the lid on, take them out, shake them off, chuck them straight into our everything bagel mix, and transfer it. And again, shake it off, flip it. The bagels are a bit fragile by now because they've got all the air in it that has developed slowly, and you want to keep it in there. So you're just using very gentle fingers when you do all of this process. I'm just using the tips of my finger and I'm barely touching it actually. I should just add that bagels, because they're so crusty, they're really a same day food, and then they should be toasted the next day. Toasted bagels are amazing. If you're a type of personality like me that's such a perfectionist, and that's gonna stop you from baking at home, like you don't have the right pot, you don't have the right things, I wanna try and show you that you don't have to let that stuff stop you from making something yum at home. The bagels are ready to go in the oven. I hope that your oven's hot already, like at least 200 degrees Celsius, if not 220, and it will bake for about 10 to 15 minutes. They're done when you can tap them at the bottom and you hear a hollow sound. Transfer them to a cooling rack so that they stay crispy while they're cooling instead of getting soggy. Ideally, you want to cool them for 20 minutes before cutting because as it's cooling, it's still kind of setting and cooking. But again, no one's going to see if you stuff a boiling hot bagel in your mouth in the kitchen. Up to you. These are boiling hot straight out of the oven. They're best eaten same day in the first few hours. Or what we do at home is we'll make a big batch, and then when they're cool, I'm gonna cut them, and then I store them in the freezer in a Ziploc, and then I take them out in the morning and I fill them for the school lunches, and by the time it's lunchtime, they're really fresh again. And if you're having people over and you really want to impress them and they're from your freezer, you can just let them defrost and freshen them up in your oven for 5 to 10 minutes on 180, and they'll be as good as if they came straight out of the oven. Thank you so much for watching and baking along with me. Good luck at home. Don't worry if they don't work out in the beginning. Just keep trying. Happy baking.